today I have with me a very special guest. My son, Isaiah Jones, is with us. Isaiah, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We're looking forward to having a conversation with him about his book, which he released in March of 2020. He's also going to talk about his brand apparel, Melanin Excellence, and he's going to talk about what it's like walking by faith as a young adult on this campus of Bowie State University. So tune in, check us out on the other side of the break, and we're going to hear from Isaiah, his young adult journey walking by faith. Inspire, influence, and impact. And my name is Cortland Jones. And again, I have with me my very special guest, Isaiah Jones.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, we are excited because today we're going to talk about your journey as an author, also as an entrepreneur, and as a young adult walking by faith. You are currently a junior at Bowie State University studying psychology.
Yep.
So, in March of 2020, during the pandemic, your very first book, Red, Yellow, Green Insights on Teen Dating, was released, published by J Media Publishing. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the book is about and why you wrote the book?
Okay. So the book is about teen dating insights of mine, wisdom of mine about teen dating, my experiences I share. A lot of the things that are in the book were from my middle school and high school years. So I definitely feel like it's been a long time since then, but at that time when I wrote it, I felt compelled to write something to reach back out to the youth. So that was the main reason for writing the book in that way. The red light, stopping and thinking about what's going on, and the yellow, proceeding with caution, not moving too fast, and green is just taking off. So the concept of the book overall was ways that you could incorporate communication with your parents and not necessarily giving a green light to date, because I'm not, that was never the reason for writing it. It was always to talk about a different perspective on how I came along with dating with my parents and involving them in my life in a way that I tried not to do before. Communicating and opening up to them, that was always something that I gained after, especially after, while during writing and after finishing.
And so you mentioned how it's been a while since you wrote the book because you're now in college and the book
Yeah.
was written during the time you were in high school.
Yeah.
But it was also kind of taking in some things you had learned between middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, understanding that the book was written, as you said, to kind of help youth think about the importance of having that conversation with their parents, what was it like for you? Can you share at least one thing that you learned as a result of writing the book as it relates to your parents' involvement in that process?
I definitely learned a new level of focus, and that was always something that you and my mom wanted me to see. I didn't know that I could even like focus that hard. That was one thing that I learned. I was writing the book while I was in my senior year of high school, so I was still able to experience all the fun things that we could do during high school, but also to work on a book and be an entrepreneur for the first time. I never thought I had that level of focus, but I tapped into that.
So understanding how focus played a role that allowed you to see more was accessible to you in life.
Mm.
What is one takeaway you would want youth, high school, middle school, even college, young adults? What is one thing you would want them to take away from the content of the book,
Mm.
and also based on what you have experienced as a young adult?
I think the one thing I would want all you to take away from that book, not it's not about dating. It's about self love and care. When we are growing up, when we hit a certain age, we often think about trying to date and fall in love, but really that's the best time to worry and not worry, but focus on yourself, focus on the things that you're interested in, be the best person you could be and grow. So that was really my message in the book, was to focus on yourself and love yourself, because that's the most important thing that I learned during that time period.
So you want youth to be able to read the book and have that takeaway. Was it easy talking with your parents about dating at that time, and how has that changed since then? Was it easy talking with your parents about dating when you were in middle school, high school,
No,
and how has it changed since then?
it wasn't easy because I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. Like I didn't really focus on what the wisdom that they were saying. I was just trying to fall in love, so I didn't really care about anything other than falling in love until after I learned that there are certain things that you need to learn about yourself, like where you want to go in life, what your goals are, and stuff like that. So now on the back end, it has been more satisfying and fulfilling talking to my parents about dating and relationships, because I have a different mindset on it now. Like it's very different from when I was a kid.
And you mentioned one of the takeaways would be, the self care,
Yeah.
and the importance of focusing on yourself. And I remember saying to you the biggest concern I had with dating at that age was learning how to deal with how you feel,
Yeah.
on top of dealing with someone else and how they feel.
Mm.
So looking back, knowing that that was my main concern when you were in middle school, what would you say now?
Yeah, I think in order to date, you have to be able to know yourself. Like that's the most important part, is self knowledge. And excuse me, without that, it's gonna be harder to even talk to somebody else in that way, because if they know about themselves and you don't, it's gonna show. So that was one thing that I always struggled with. I never really knew myself like that. Never took the time to focus on who I was. So after learning that, it's been much not an easier process, but more fulfilling because I know my worth.
One thing I said to you and Sydney, because you and Sydney wrote the book together, you
Mm.
wrote from the male perspective, and Sydney is your sister, and she wrote
Right.
from the female perspective. And one thing I said to both of you recently was, when you are securing who you are and you got your goals and you know where you're trying to go, you're not as quick to want to bring somebody
Into it, yeah.
into your world. So can you explain further what that means? Because now you guys are young adults. You're not middle school or high school kids.
Right.
So understanding I said that to you, what does that mean to you today?
I mean, today it's like I definitely understand what that means, because at that time I didn't have a job, and I mean, school was always school, but it wasn't going after my career. I mean, there was just certain things that I didn't have to deal with when I was a child, but now that I'm an adult, I don't allow certain things to go on. Like I will just cut it off because I know my time is valuable. So if I'm spending time creating businesses and writing books and trying to go to work and obtain knowledge for my career, I'm not dealing with somebody or wanting to date somebody who would be a distraction for that. I just know that that's not going to be beneficial for me.
So it sounds like to me you learned an important component of dating, which is healthy boundaries.
Right.
Obviously, as middle school students, we're not thinking about stuff like that,
Yeah.
and maybe not even in high school either. So, can you allude a little bit on what you understand healthy boundaries to be and why they're important?
I believe healthy boundaries are important because they are what they are. They keep you protected from things that are easily accessible to you. Like you won't be able to like if you're out on a date or you're dating somebody and they're always trying to call you and take up most of your time, a healthy boundary would be I can't talk to you within these hours because I'm spending that time for myself. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're alone, but you value the time that you have for yourself. So healthy boundaries such as that, or I can't do today because I'm tired off yesterday. It's just certain things that you do for yourself to make sure you're good, not always trying to appease the other person. You always have to be healthy with yourself before somebody else.
So you wrote a book on dating. You talk with your parents about dating. You
Mm.
learn things about dating.
Yeah.
Did that prevent the bad things from
Nah,
happening when it comes to dating?
that could never prevent it. I think everything that involves dating is just always going to happen. But when you have the wisdom that you have, it's easier to navigate through the storm.
So I remember when you transitioned into college, I asked you to research what closure meant
Hmm.
because you were going through the reality of a relationship ending.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what you learned about that and why it was important to research that subject?
Yeah, closure was something that I felt like I needed after a high school relationship. And it's funny now because at that point in time, I felt like I needed it so much, but when you learn what closure is and what you have to deal with regarding closure, you're gonna need that so much more in life. So knowing what closure was in that moment helped me or allowed me to understand how important it was for the rest of my life, honestly.
Yeah, because closure is simply choosing to let go and let things end,
Yeah.
whether you have the privilege of the other person helping you do that,
Or not.
you make sure you get closure.
Right.
And one of the things I remember telling you in Sydney was you got to learn how to end a relationship just like you learn to get in them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get stuck in a place you don't need to be and you can't focus the way you need to.
Yeah.
So, what would you say today is an important life lesson learned other than closure that stays with you now as you continue to get involved in the dating experience?
I would have to say self love, just because that's such a. It's for me. It's always been big. I've always been big on self love after writing the book. I had not really known what that meant when I was in school, junior high, and high school, all that stuff. But when I graduated from high school, self love was always something that I tried to keep within my lifestyle. And even now, doing the things that I'm doing, it's all a product of the root of self love. And just doing these things is something that I always knew I wanted to do, and at some point I did them because I knew my worth. So yeah.
Well, I've always believed that an informed child is an empowered child.
Mm.
And so that was the main thing that I was concerned about with you and Sydney is that y'all just be informed about where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do.
Right.
So, what do you believe having this information, writing about it, talking about it with your parents? How do you feel like being informed about dating has helped you?
It's helped a lot. I just think dating is one of those things that you need to learn about before doing, because if you don't, you'll probably regret your experiences. It's just such a complex thing to do. If you don't really know what you're doing, you're gonna mess mess up your thought about it, because it's not what people make it out to be at all.
So it sounds like you're saying, it's not a bad thing to do, but when you're informed,
Right.
you can, in some ways, avoid certain things that aren't necessary to experience
Yeah.
because you're more informed about the situation.
Right.
You're still going to have challenges with dating just like anybody else, but by being informed, you kind of minimize either the challenges you encounter or the overall negative experiences that may occur, the
Right.
impact of it.
Mm.
So as we prepare to transition into the break, what is one thing you would want a young adult to take away from dating that you can answer within 45 seconds or less?
I would say, don't believe that. I would say, you're gonna do it. If you decide to, include your parents, include people who are wise, include people that you can rely on to talk about it, because you're always gonna need to talk about what's going on. And I would say to love yourself through it all, because you're more valuable than you may know it.
So this is my son Isaiah, in whom I am well pleased, and he is here talking with us about his book Red, Yellow, Green: Insights on Dating for Teens. And on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about his brand apparel as well as his young adult journey walking by faith.
It is key that you mind your mental health.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing this week?
Hi.
Use the 5 keys to mental movement.
Really monumental week for me. I realized that I was not being myself.
Reaching out.
Be positive attitude person self, like you guys know me to be.
Staying upbeat.
And get back to that happy, cheery self of me.
This week's been kind of
Being
stressful,
creative.
all of the workload that we have on online learning. So I've been trying to use different platforms and different websites to help ease my mind and ease my stress.
And what about you, Marjorie?
Well, you guys know me. I just love to work with others and serve them.
Serving others.
Realize that when I serve others, my mind is off of myself.
That's right. And don't forget, self-care is key.
Self-care.
All right. So see you guys next week.
Right.
Bye.
Your mind matters.
All right, welcome back, and we want to thank everybody currently who's joining us live on Facebook as well as Instagram, and we want to thank everyone who's going to check us out in the playback. This is Believe, where we look to inspire, influence, and impact, and my guest today is my son, Isaiah Jones, and he currently has been talking about his book, Red, Yellow, Green: Insights on Dating for Teens, and what it's been like for him, his young adult journey through middle school, high school, and now a young adult at Bowie State University. The question I have for you now, one of the conversations I had with you was the reality that when you're a teenager, obviously most focus is on relationships, and that's understood because that's usually how teens operate. But God is looking for us, especially those who say that they are his children, to pursue him, to focus on a relationship with him, which most people wouldn't be thinking about as a teenager. So what would you say as a takeaway of what that conversation did for you and what your journey, walking by faith, has been like from that point up through college?
Man, I would say transparently, my faith walk has been not a struggle, but it's been, you know, it's just one of those things that nobody can ever prepare you for.
Mm-hmm.
I think people would be not telling the truth if they say things are perfect in life. So I just know, I mean, I know I'm blessed, so I can't lie and say I'm struggling. But when I do go through storms, it's hard sometimes to just like not totally worry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, college is hard, and I would be lying if I said you're gonna just get through it by doing what you have to do. I mean, there are just things that happen in college that you don't even have control over. But one of the things that has always been beneficial was being able to pray and journal and write and read the Bible. Like, I had done that a lot recently, so I've been refreshed in my thinking. You know, even in my business, there are things that I'm trying to do now based on my recent faith walk, being stronger and being more connected. And the thing is, I want to try to still remain as close to God as I can without trying to do everything by myself, because it's easy to think that you can just do it all, but you really can't. Like, it's just hard. It's really hard.
You know, and interestingly enough, I posted recently on Facebook that even if it's a struggle, that we should still be intentional about trusting God's faithfulness, that He's with us and He will bless us and He will help us.
Right. Yeah.
So based on what you're saying, does that mean when you struggle, even as a Christian, that God is unhappy with you? You know, how could you be struggling? You're my child. It sounds like you're saying walking by faith is not easy.
Right. No, I like to think of faith as my job. Like, I started off a server, so I was doing most of the hard work, and I was working hard, separating myself from the rest, just caring about the customers, doing stuff like that. And I felt like that was where I needed to be in that time period. I was a sophomore in college. I had just moved, so I was closer in distance to having a job, and also school was either online or on campus one out of the 7 days of the week. So I was able to have a job while maintaining college courses. And now that I'm in my junior year, I got a promotion to be a manager. So I don't have to work as hard to experience the benefits of my hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things, like, in my faith walk, I know there are points where I have to do the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
I have to pray and read and get up and focus on God. Don't pleasure myself with doing the things I want to do as soon as I get up. Like, I have to make sure I'm giving it to the person that woke me up,
Mm-hmm.
and at some point, I'm not saying it's just going to be easy, but I'm going to experience the benefit of trusting God and being able to have the type of lifestyle that I've had this far, because I had done everything that He had wanted me to do.
Yeah, and to me, that is what it means to have a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
You're cultivating that time with Him, and I would want any young adult to understand that is what the relationship is about.
Right.
Investing that time in Him, and then trusting that investment of time in Him is what is going to help you even in the tough times.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen God be faithful in that way. But again, most teenagers, young adults, that's not the type of conversation that they're having. So sometimes you can feel like you're all alone in your situation.
Yeah.
But do you see how having that relationship with Him, how it helps you even when you are in solitude or by yourself or alone? Do you see how that relationship is helping you in this stage or season of your life?
Yeah, the one thing that I've focused on most was what happens after,
Mm-hmm.
After life, after it's all said and done. Am I really going to be satisfied with the decisions I made here to be able to go forward in my afterlife, and not even to get super spiritual, but it's just like, I can't focus on all the things I have to do on earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much that you can do that you'll miss out on what God wants you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one thing that I was realizing as I was heading out of the year, was I was focusing on a lot of things and worried about a lot of things and anxious about a lot of things that at some point I can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to miss out on the bigger picture by worrying about the things that don't really, in the grand scheme of things, they don't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those things I had to realize, especially going into my spring semester. It was just like some things I just won't allow myself to get focused on. I have to just let it go.
So I what I hear is your faith, learning how to sharpen your focus and be more intentional about what you focus on, which I do believe is important when you talk about faith.
Yeah.
So you're not easily distracted by things that you really don't have any ability to affect anyway.
Yeah.
Like when my car was stolen, my immediate reaction was, that's a God problem, because ain't nothing I can do about my car being stolen. And it's important to have that level of understanding so you're not tossed and driven emotionally by the reality of what's going on around you. So talk to us about Melanin Excellence.
Yeah. that that was that idea came to me in the summer of 2022. It came to me in the summer of 2022. One of my coworkers was saying that he had created his own clothing brand, and I just thought to myself, I know somebody else that had created their own clothing brand too, so why don't I try it myself? And I sat through the mindset
Mindset for marketing.
right. So I sat there, I reached out to J Media, and I asked them, like, how realistic would it be to start my own clothing brand through them? And it was really realistic. So I just had to focus, create art that I desired to wear on myself, and that's what it came out to be. And even now, one of the things that I want to prioritize going into this year is making the most of my brand, like being who Melanin Excellence is, because it's not about anything more than just being excellent, like in who you are and what you do. And one of the newest art designs I came up with was self-love, always being tied back to that. You know, in order to be excellent, you gotta love yourself. You can't ever, that doesn't correlate if you don't, like, excellence doesn't come from lack of love. You always have to pour back into yourself. And that was, I think that message itself is going to be very positive, not only for me, but not only as a reminder for me, but for my brand, just because that was what it started off from, self-love.
No, I love that. And so we released our first book in 2022. And then you got on the college campus, and now you're a junior. You work at IHOP, and you've been promoted. And now you have this apparel, brand apparel. And then you went to the Black-owned Small Business Expo.
Right.
So talk to me, what has it been like currently as an entrepreneur? What has that been like for you?
I mean, it's still fresh. I officially opened my brand on October 21st, so it's still fresh. However, I'm still learning, like, what I can do to tap into my supporters. And, you know, I do have people that support me just because they know me, but I also do have people who are really wanting to see me thrive and do well. So that was one of the things that I had to realize, because in like November and December I got busy with school because I was doing finals and everything. So I was tired. I wasn't really focused on my business because I had to finish up school. That was always important to me. And I had sent out my little care package late, but the people who received them were just very gracious. And that was just very nice to see that they weren't mad that I got busy. Like, it's just stuff like that just means a lot.
No, and I love what you shared. So in the remaining time that we have, let me just say this. You know, I'm proud of you, first of all, and I love you because, you being my son, I'm just happy to see you at this stage in your life, thriving, as you mentioned, which is important to me. You know, as a parent, I can just simply say, you know, those empty nest years are very difficult because you don't have any influence anymore. They pretty much go on their own to do what they do, but you've been doing a great job. So I want to let you know I'm proud of you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my son, Isaiah Jones, and he's doing his thing. We want to thank you for tuning in with us. This is Believe live studio broadcast. We appreciate you. See you in February.